This little session, this little taster, it's about the idea of sketching and mark making and keeping it quite loose. So I'm using pen here, and in the same way as holding the pencil, you can get different marks by different ways that you hold it. So this one is what we were doing before, and you can feel it going up your thumb and the inside of your hand. And then if you move your fingers further back on the pen, tilt it slightly, you get more of an angle. So you'll find that with the pens, it's a little bit more difficult. So for this one here, I'm using a slightly bigger pen so that I can go at more of an angle and it shows up. Okay, so you can just see the different angles in the same way as pencil. Thumbs up, yep. One of the things I tend to use quite a lot is like this scribble technique. So imagine you've got a biro and it's not working properly and you're scribbling it. So what I've circled there, I use that a lot for shading. What I also use is something called crosshatch. And all that means is your lines going at an angle, and then you have lines going over the top at a different angle. And then if you add further layers, it becomes a multi-hatch. Okay, so you can see there. So I'm just going to scribble down what each of these are. I've also done a snapshot so you can see it in more detail, because I'm aware the pen doesn't show up in quite the same way as some of the other stuff. So all of these marks that I've made here is what I'm going to apply to a very simple scene. So all of these simple scribbles, few lines, can be made into a very sort of stylistic, simple landscape using pen. There we go. There's the marks. So in my mind, I've got this landscape. It's like Hampshire, and you've got the hills, and I want to have the sense of distance. I'm going to use the scribbling technique to do the foliage in the background, and I'm actually going to use a couple of pens because some are thinner than the others. Just adds a little bit of depth. Trying to be a bit clever there with two hands, but it makes it quite loose, which I quite like. So you can see using the scribble technique and then emphasizing it so it's darker on the bottom of the scribble, and then we're slowly building up our scene with the hills. We're imagining that perhaps the land has recently been turned over by a tractor or something, and so you've got these trough-like effects coming forward. And then I'm going to add a tree on the right hand side as well. But the point of this is keeping it really simple and just using the mark. So putting in the fence there, the distance will be smaller. As it gets closer, it'll be bigger, but I'm just doing some straight flicks of the line. The tree that's going in, I'm going to be cutting quite across my image because I quite like compositions where the tree branch comes across. You can see I'm using the marks that I've done at the top, so a little bit of hatching and cross hatching and scribbling and combining all of it together. And then also with the pen, if you imagine the bark on a tree, it's kind of got this wavy, wobbly, rough sort of texture going on. So mimic that with the pen, so you're scribbling it vertically, okay? And then in the foreground, I'm just whacking in a little bit of foliage and maybe some long leaves, something like that, imitating grass that may be around the bottom of the tree. Again, it's just using the marks that we've already made at the top. Very simple mark making. Okay, so you can see there where I'm pulling it all together and then using a few more of the hatching to suggest that the top of the hill is lighter than the other. But and using the white space as well, that's a really important one. So I will have another image here of a close-up so you can see a little bit more detail what I am doing there. So the scribbles on the tree, and then how the foliage and the hedge has been achieved in the background as well. But when you're out sketching, you don't have time to be precise. It's about keeping it very, very loose. All right. And I'm sort of thinking of where the light is coming from as well when I'm doing this. There we go, and just scribble and make some notes. And I'm doing a bit more on the tree just to emphasize it with a slightly darker pen, and then flicking the pen across. And then probably what I'll do is a little border around the outside of it So it's framed, and it gives us a sense of proportion as well. It just helps with it, but a little bit more tweaking, because you kind of stop yourself tweaking on these things, and slowly we will build it up. And hopefully the next bit that will come up will give you a bit more clarity. So there we are. Just give it a border, frame this very quick doodle. That's it. It's almost like looking through the lens of a camera, and it helps you think of composition. Right? So my tree's on the right hand side. There we go. Right, so this is what it looks like, gone into detail, and I'm just going to do a very quick wash in it and keeping it really simple. So I'm wetting the paper and then adding colour into it, and this is called wet on wet, or some people say wet in wet. Keeping it very simple with the blue. I sort of tamed it down a little bit with a bit of violet, sort of, or red in there to create a violet. In my mind, I've got a bit more of an autumnal kind of feel going on. Adding a bit more water, mixing up a little bit of a green, but using yellow ochre, that makes it more natural and earthy. Where I've done the fence, I'm doing the colour in between where the posts are. Right, and then going into the distance, and then this is the bit where we're imagining the tractor has been along and it's all been got these sort of ploughed areas. I'm lifting out some of this and going to swipe it with a little bit of kitchen towel to give the suggestion that there's light coming through, and because there's that light, we're going to have the contrast as well. So it's just a case of slowly building that up, taking a step back, looking at it, and then just dabble around a little bit more. I'm going to add some red into that green, and then it gives you a bit of contrast as well. But these washes are only light because I'm imagining that if I was doing this outdoors, I would be doing it this quickly. So I've sped it up a little bit, but I would say this is probably like a 10-minute thing that I've done. There we go, a bit of kitchen towel wiping it out. That's quite useful. You can just lift it and it gives you this rhythm, and it goes straight across. All right, and then emphasizing the tree slightly. So I've got my ink on there, I've got the watercolor on there, and just slowly building it up. And there we go. My cat is probably going to come in a minute. She likes to help out. There she is. This is Mishy. So we'll have a little stroke and a purr in the left hand, whilst the right hand is just trying to finish some stuff off. She did actually roll all over it, so good job I'm not precious about it all. So this is just keep loose, don't be precious about it. It's a sketchbook, we're not after perfection. It's just to capture a moment. All right, be good guys, take care.